The following was recorded during the COVID-19 pandemic through Zoom meetings in accordance with local health guidelines. Hi, I'm Mike Maloney, and welcome to another CSRM podcast. Today's episode is hosted by Dr. Greg Linville.
Welcome back. Second segment with our folks from Oklahoma Baptist University. And we've got Dr. Chad Payne with us. And Chad, you have added a second student from our first time. So why don't you introduce our two other students, and welcome to this podcast with CSRM.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Dr. Greg Linville, for having us. This is a very big honor for you to talk to us. And so I'm introduce Carolyn Ward. She is from First Baptist Carrollton, and she went to OBU all 4 years with a sports ministry major, and has now been a sports minister for 2 years in the North Dallas area. And then Ryan Fisher also graduated a year ago, and he is so much fun. I still remember the day that he came to OBU even with his dad in my office, and he was still just talking about what major should he do and where does God leading him. And so Ryan has a sports management major, and then God shifted that to where he has a passion to use that sports management major in sports ministry. And so he is working as the sports ministry director at First Baptist Broken Arrow in the Tulsa area of Oklahoma.
Well, welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
And Ryan, I know that you're kind of even in the middle. Are you doing a camp this week? You're doing right in the middle of some sports and rec ministry there, right?
Yes, this is the first day of our 8-week camp on our campus. So pretty crazy, over 100 kids here, but it's a lot of fun. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. And so Dr. Payne said if you don't get on, he still has a grade that he can change to get your degree right. So yeah, that he'll use that for quite a few decades on you if you let him. So, but we were talking in the last segment about not only the curriculum, and Ryan, Carolyn was really high on some of the professors and some of the interpersonal relationships. Your experience with some of the professors and mentoring, or what's a highlight of that for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say there's several different examples. I would completely agree with Carolyn that one of my favorite parts about OBU is those really close relationships that you'll build with the staff and faculty. And so not only, I would say with Chad Payne here, but just with going on mission trips and going to the Reach Gathering Conference, but also just with the day-to-day, just being in class with him, but also him just always having his office door open for us and just being able to talk about not only sports ministry, but life and everything in between. And so there's that with the faculty. So he's been a really great mentor for me and that kind of person in my life, but also I'd say kind of with Res Life, I had the opportunity to be the head RA of the freshman boys dorm for a couple of years. And so that was certainly a blessing, but also it was a really great experience just with the resident director of the building. My freshman year coming into campus, he was the one who really started pouring into me spiritually, and me and a small group of friends, we're in a little bit of a discipleship group. And so I feel like that's a really big part of my testimony as far as when I really started growing in my walk with the Lord. And from that, just being able to grow as a person and just kind of be able to be involved in some leadership roles across campus. But I would definitely say that Dr. Chad Payne here and my resident director and even the director of the Recreation and Wellness Center, Corey Bolgren, were some three really good examples of just people who have poured into me, but also just some opportunities where I've been able to serve in some leadership roles with them as well. So.
Now, Chad, he called it being a resident advisor or whatever he was of a freshman dorm as a blessing. I think some people, if their theology was such, would call that purgatory, but we'll kind of let that go. And in case you didn't catch the first segment here, this is the second installment of us talking to folks from Oklahoma Baptist University. You'll hear us refer to OBU. We heard Carolyn's side of that, so we're not neglecting her. She's already had that. So go back and watch that one. It's archived, and you can pick it up, as are all the CSRM podcasts. And for any future OBU student, just if you get tired of Dr. Payne, just say, hey, put up one of those CSRM podcasts up there, and then we'll really get something out of it. Just kidding there. But Chad, let's talk a little bit. You explained a little bit that there are, I think, 3 credit hours that are required for every student that would be in this internship or practicum concept, and that translates to a little over 100 clock hours over their time there. What might that look like? Where would they do that at? Who would help them with that?
Yeah, that's very good. So just clarify, there's only 3 minimum. They can get up much more than that, and we really encourage them to do much more than 3. They have to have at least 3 to graduate.
Better.
Yeah. So they have to have at least 3 to graduate. They can get up to 12 credit hours.
Oh, great.
For their time, yeah. So for that, as we leave it up to the students, I have a list of resources, and so every student has a little bit of different skills and backgrounds unique to them, and so I give them some guidance, but it's really up to the student to network and to find a place to go. And when we say go, we don't want them to just observe and sit in a corner. Part of their internship is they are active participating. This is where they're in their junior or senior year, so they've had a lot of coursework already, a little bit more mature at that time. And so we ask the organization agency that they're going to give them as much responsibility as possible, right? And so to help teach them. And so students, and definitely in sports ministry, go to a lot of churches. And so many churches around will take our students and then mentor them and help them out for a semester or even longer, and help teach them what is sports ministry. There's, you can learn a lot in the classroom, and book knowledge is good to a certain point. And then there's a certain point where you really need to be out doing that, experiencing what you're learning. And so that's the key to the mentorship, internships that are required. Another part of that is that I always bring a group of students to the Reach Gathering. And so that's a 3 credit hour class, is to go and network and learn at the Reach Gathering and grow there. And so I've had several students who have made great connections, and every time they leave the Reach Gathering, they come away like, wow, this is great. They have even a more clearer vision of what is sports ministry when they go there. So that is another 3 credit hour class that they can get when they go.
This is one of the best programs, folks. If you're watching or listening to this, you got to at least give OBU a chance. If you're thinking about going someplace, give them a chance, because you've got to have, as Dr. Payne just said, you've got to have the book learning, you've got to have the classroom experience, but boy, having that out in the field experience is so important. Carolyn, tell us about yours, and anything in particular that was just kind of a excitement or a standout for you.
Yeah, I think alongside, so my summer internships that I took, one was with the church that I'm currently working at full time. And so
amazing how that works.
Yes, yeah, it works, right? So being able to have that was phenomenal. And at the same time, I worked for a camp ministry that does on-site camps at churches. And so doing both of those throughout the summer was incredible. And so I got internship credit for those. But alongside those, I was able to take a lot of on-campus jobs at OBU that were in the sports realm, and alongside Ryan as well, working with students in a resident area. But freshman year, was able to work with our sports information department. And so I was there on game days for our D2 sports. And so that helps, kind of train me. And then I was an RA, a residential advisor. And so being able to work with young ladies coming onto campus, that helps train me. And then I was able to help form our club sports program that we have for athletes that played in high school and loved sports, but weren't able to make it to the D2 level. We had almost like a JV version of a team. And so able to help form that and coach those teams and get that experience. And then my senior year, working alongside our intramural director, was another on-campus job that I was able to have. And so the opportunities that were given to me have been so formative, and alongside internships as well as jobs as well, helped so much, for sure.
Ryan, how about you? What's your experience been, and are you at the church that you interned with?
So I'm not, but I do have a really good experience with a church I interned with. That was actually with Green Acres Baptist Church in Tyler, Texas. And I was able to meet them through the Reach Gathering. Chad Payne introduced me to them, and just kind of had a quick conversation, and which led into an interview. And I definitely would definitely recommend having an internship with sports ministry, especially with where my passions lied, with just being with wanting to work in the church areas. That was becoming more obvious to me, that God was revealing that was kind of my calling in life, was to do ministry in a church setting, sports ministry rather. But yeah, I did several different internships as well. My freshman year, kind of like Chad was saying, not exactly sure where I was going to end up, but that's one benefit to an internship. I started doing I think the same sports information marketing that Carolyn was referring to, the kind of doing the game day. And that was interesting. That was my first internship. And that was something that I was able to learn more of the kind of on-site game day marketing behind the scenes. So I was able to take away some valuable things, but I also realized that that's not exactly what I want to do full time. So that's a benefit of knowing what you don't want to do, and such a short little thing like that. But my internships with churches were in the summers between, I was at OBU for 3 years, so it was in between my freshman and sophomore, and then my in between my second and third year there. So the first one was at Bethany First Church in Bethany, Oklahoma, and that was doing a lot of sports camps and a T-ball league, and so I was able to see a little bit of the all of the work and nitty-gritty things leading up to that, as well as managing it from there. And it's pretty similar at the Green Acres Baptist Church in Tyler, Texas, but on a much bigger scale, and is able to be put into some leadership roles in that as well. And so I would definitely say that my internships, whether it was Res Life or what's that one internship, that was just a job, but the sports marketing and then the two at the church has really helped me realize, one, what I felt called to do, but also I feel like equipped me for the role I'm in right now.
Chad, Ryan just shared something that I think is really important, and that is that sometimes these internships and practicums help people know what they're not called to, as well as what they are called to. And if you're considered in a school, this has got to be part of the curriculum. It's just got to be there. And it can save you a lot of grief later on, because you go to the school and think, oh, that's what I'm going to do. And if you never get a chance to do it, you can find out, and you're already hired in a job in a ministry, and say, this is not who I am. Chad, other insights that you have in terms of what you do, share a little bit in our last couple minutes here in this segment about what the school does in terms of this employment or vocational counseling that goes along with the curriculum and the practicums.
Yeah, let me, before I get to the counseling part, let me go back as far as the internships go. Ryan and Carolyn both went with me to the Ukraine on a sports ministry trip. And so we do lead, that's another part of international sports ministry. And so both of them were with me for 3 weeks, leading sports camps all 3 weeks internationally. And then I'm taking a group of 12 students here in about 2 weeks to visit Magid Fonzi and Wellspring in North Egypt. Magid spoke at Reach Gathering, was that last or right before COVID, right? And so I have 12 students that are going over to do, again, sports ministry over in North Africa. And so that's another part of the, we want all of our students to learn that sports is a way to share the gospel. And so we want to give them all the tools possible to be able to share the gospel using sports. And Ryan and Carolyn were involved in that while they were students here on there. So going back to your question as far as counseling goes, we believe as you're sharing the gospel, there's going to be God moments where you build relationships in sports, where people are struggling. They're dealing with real life world issues. And as a sports minister, we want to train them to be available to counsel them. They don't have a counseling degree or they're not a professional counselor, but we want all students to have a basic knowledge. So OBU has a wonderful family and marriage counseling program. And one of those classes, all of our sports ministers has to take an intro to family marriage counseling. And so they learn the proper skills of active listening, responding correctly, how to understand how to help someone going through just life issues. And so I think sports ministers, as they're dealing with sports and scheduling and equipment and game day operations, they should also be looking for those God moments of when someone just needs someone to talk to. And so students here get that training. Sometimes they go on and get more training. At the very minimum, they have to take basic counseling skills. We also partner with our family sciences division. And so there's several family science type of courses to where our sports ministers are learning how the family unit operates in that counseling area. So again, it goes back to the liberal arts, well-rounded education that OBU offers.
We want to pick up on that in our next segment. And this is so crucial, and I can share with all three of you there that when I was teaching at the university, one of the classes we had was marriage and ministry. And this is not an exaggeration that literally 90% of the students that took the course have contacted me in the ensuing decades and have said it was the most important course that they took, because they said I would either be out of my marriage or out of my ministry or both. And that class was so crucial. And so I give you great kudos for that. We also want to hear a little bit about how the school does some advising for students from moving from the classroom into the ministry as they graduate. And just hear again a little bit more from our students. But we've come to the end of this segment. I thank each of you for being with us. So join us next time as we talk a little bit more about how do we envision moving from the classroom and from the degree into a life of ministry. And we're going to hear from our students about some tips that they would have for you. Coming up on the screen throughout this is all the contact information about how to get in touch with OBU. And feel free. Dr. Payne will walk you through that. All right, thanks for joining us on this segment, and we're coming back for another one.
The CSRM podcast is a production of the Association of Church Sports and Recreation Ministers and their video production house, Overwhelming Victory Flix. Dr. Greg Linville is the executive producer, and Andrew Fouts is associate producer and editor. For more information about CSRM, visit csrm.org. For more information about Overwhelming Victory, visit overwhelmingvictory.org. The CSRM podcast is the flagship member of a new podcast network called Overwhelming Victory Radio. For more information on Overwhelming Victory Radio or to listen to our partner podcasts, visit overwhelmingvictory.org/OV radio. For CSRM Podcasts, I'm Mike Maloney. Have a blessed day.